Hey everybody, how's it going? This is David Sharp. Welcome to the call. I'm actually jumping on here a few minutes early. Everybody's still unmuted. I don't know, I guess it's about 8:58. So what Dave and I wanted to do here at the beginning of the call, and he should have either gone already, popping on here in a second.
No, but you just bought some. I don't understand why you suddenly need a new pair of Oakleys. What's wrong with the pair you have?
Hey guys, really quick, before I mute everybody out, let's go ahead and take a minute. Let's go ahead and take a minute and just
20 times maybe. You don't even wear them.
I do wear them.
Hey guys.
2 weeks at a beach, you didn't put on a pair of sunglasses.
Hey folks, this is Dave Wood. Just kind of as you're coming into the conference call, if you could say your name, where you're from, and then go ahead and push *6 to mute yourself out, that'd be great, and we'll get started here in a couple of minutes. Welcome to the call, whoever just spoke up. Go ahead, everybody who's coming into the call, name, first name, where you're from, and then just hit *6 to go ahead and mute yourself out. We'll get started here in a minute as David comes on.
Joan from Brooklyn, New York.
Welcome, Joan, and welcome the one from Brooklyn. Didn't catch the name there, but welcome to the call.
Hey, Dave, it's Rick from Bethesda.
This is awesome. Hey, I can't hear anybody, but I'm very excited.
Hey, welcome everybody to the call. Hey, Dave Sharp here, guys, also. Welcome to the call.
Warner Snares, Washington, D.C.
Hey, welcome to the call there from Washington.
Okay, this is Stephen Peters from Sandy, Oregon.
Welcome to the call, Stephen.
Hey.
Hi, Deborah Smith from West Virginia.
Welcome from South Carolina and Cleveland. As you guys are coming in, if you could just introduce yourself, say your first name, where you're from, and then just hit *6 to mute yourself out, that'd be great.
Dave from Cincinnati.
Welcome to the call, Dave. Appreciate you being on, buddy.
My brother from Oregon.
I love the amount of feedback from people calling in. This is a lot of fun doing these conference calls. As you're coming in, guys, if you just say your first name, where you're calling in from, and then hit yourself out.
Moscow from Cleveland.
Brant Sean, Hyattsville, Maryland.
Welcome, Brant from Maryland. Appreciate you being on, buddy.
Welcome, buddy.
Makes sense.
Shane from Canada.
Welcome, Shane.
Eric from Detroit.
Hey, Eric, welcome to the call, buddy.
Thanks a lot, Dave.
Brian, let me just make it crystal clear to you right now. I'm not buying those tonight, okay? And I don't want to talk anymore about it. I'm not. It's just foolish, Andrew.
He doesn't want to talk about it tonight, so welcome to the call, buddy.
Dave, you want to get started, buddy?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get started, Dave. I don't know the code. Can you mute people out?
Hold on. Yeah, hold on a second, buddy. Okay, awesome. Dave, can you at least hear me, buddy?
I can hear you just fine, dude.
All right, cool. Yeah, you're incredibly clear as well. Hey, everybody, just really quick, want to just welcome everybody to the call. My name's David Sharp, and obviously David Wood on the line here. Now, this is a little bit different kind of a call, and so I want to just kind of go ahead and introduce myself really quick and kind of tell you guys what we're going to do tonight. Before I turn it over to Dave and kind of let him take over here in just a second. But again, welcome to the call. Happy Labor Day, happy holidays for those of you who are here in the States. It's definitely been an exciting day for me, doing not a whole lot of anything. So I'm excited to be on the call tonight. What we're going to do tonight is basically go over. And this is going to be the first night that we're going to cover some really, really cut to the chase, point blank sales, marketing, influence, persuasion, skills. Basically, the cut and dry, essential things that we need as marketers on the internet. Now, a lot of you know what Dave Wood's been able to do, and those who have been invited by me know some of the things that I've been able to do. And the really interesting thing about the results that we've been able to get is that it hasn't been by a lot of what most people think is what it is. It's actually been by a very, very cut-to-the-chase formula that we've used, and we're going to cover one essential point of that formula tonight, which is basically how to influence people through inspiration. Now, just because I'm a little ADD here, let me go ahead and record this conference really quick before I forget to. Really quick, give me one quick second. Okay, very good. So again, this is going to be the first week that we're going to kind of team up and partner up and cover some really what we feel through our experience is the most beneficial marketing information that we could basically give to you guys. And I'm really excited to be a part of this because the truth of the matter is when I first got started inside of this industry, and I'll talk a little bit about that more here in a second, but I was on complete information overload, and I know that it's very helpful to get training here and training there and training all over the place. But the fact of the matter is a lot of times we get overwhelmed and we aren't really clear on exactly what we need to do. So tonight's a really exciting night because I'm emotionally pumped up. Those of you who know me, who are invited by me, know that a lot of times I get emotionally charged up. I get inspired very easily. So what I hope to do tonight is actually pass some of that inspiration on to you and show you that it's not particularly what you think that it is to be able to get results in this industry. So, Dave, let me go ahead and turn it over to you real quick, buddy, and tell them exactly a little bit more about what we're going to do.
Yeah, absolutely, Dave, and thanks for the introduction there, buddy, too, and I appreciate everything that you're doing. And, a lot of people on this call, they've heard my story. When I got started doing this industry, I didn't really have a lot. I didn't have a lot of resources. I had a lot of time. It's probably the only resource I really had a lot of, and I had a lot of energy. But the reality is that when I got started, very similar to you, Dave, I had information overload, a million gurus trying to sell me different products, a million different systems out there, a million things to click on, and a million ebooks to read, and I hadn't bought them all, and so always felt a little bit inadequate. But, I got started and just kind of applied some of my creative energy into a very specific process, and I was able to make an incredible amount of money very, very, very quickly. But not only was I able to create money, I was able to create freedom, which is very unique in the sense that, I'm not tied in front of my computer all the time. I'm not tied to the phone all the time. I'm free to travel around the world. I've been able to travel, I think to, 5 countries or 10 countries or something like this since I've been doing this. And today, as we're speaking, I'm actually making more than, anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000 literally every single day of the week, 7 days a week, regardless of whether I work or not. As an example, today I literally only sent out an email about a half an hour ago. Only other email I sent out was last night. I've done nothing throughout the course of the day, and I've already made over $2,000. And so obviously what I did worked, but there's a disconnect that I see, Dave, where people think when they look at what I'm doing that my money was made from article marketing, or they think that my money was made from, putting together how-to videos on the internet, and they say, David, what's the keyword that I need to go after to get the results that you got? The reality is, though, that it was not article marketing that made me the money that I'm making. It wasn't a little keyword. It wasn't a backlinking strategy. What made me the money that I'm making today was my ability to communicate inspirational messages of hope and fire into human beings and to be able to transfer the belief that I have on what we're doing into other people's hearts. And so when I ran into, Dave Sharp online, he was just kind of getting going. I had been going a little bit already. We didn't really jive with each other. He could share a little bit more about that story here in a second, but the reality is that I saw something in David where he had this incredible ability to communicate messages that is really shared by very few people online. And so we hopped on the phone maybe a few months back and said, you know what, why don't we just kind of team up? Why don't we just kind of speak the same message into people? Why don't we use both the and help people build businesses bigger, better, and faster than ever. So tonight, folks, what this is really about, this is the first of many series that Dave and I are going to do together. I want you to go ahead and block off 9 p.m. Eastern time for the next 6 months on your calendar. Just lock it off and write down the phone number that you called in here on, because we're going to be doing these conference calls every single week. By the time you leave this conference call tonight, we're going to share with you literally the process of how you can go out this week and just through sheer power of influence and inspiration bring in 2, 3, 4, 5 reps into your business. So if that pumps you up and that gets you excited, then pull out a pen, start writing some notes, start pacing around your house listening to this call because we're going to do it. Now, what I wanted to do real quick is I just wanted to edify Dave Sharp. A lot of people on my list don't really know who he is maybe yet. I have a little bit of a different sphere of influence that he has. We advertise a little bit different. Dave Sharp is one of these guys that has an ability to convert leads to sales like very few people that I've met on the internet, even that make millions of dollars a year. In fact, the only reason why you haven't heard his name is because he hasn't really been marketing online this long. But not only that, he's a great guy, and not only that, he really cares about his team. He really cares about his list. And he wants people to have the best in their life. He wants them to have success. I think he has one of the most inspirational stories that I've ever heard in my entire life. So real quick, I want to hand it over to Dave, and I think he's going to share a little bit about his story, and then we're going to get into some concepts and hopefully help you guys have a little bit of a breakthrough tonight. Cool, man. Dave, can you hear me? Yeah, absolutely, dude. Okay, buddy. Cool, man. Want to just thank you for that really nice introduction. But I mean, those of you who were introduced by me tonight from my specific marketing list, just really quick before I get into my story and what I've been able to do. Basically, actually, not really since I got on the internet, but over the course of the last about 3.5, 4 years. Just before I get into that, I just want to basically start out by saying. In introducing Dave one more time and just kind of edifying him also. Dave's one of these people that's for those of you who know who he is already, knows that he's one of the most creative guys that I've ever seen. It's kind of a funny story that I'll tell really quick. When I first ran into Dave, it was probably, I don't know, probably almost a year and a half ago, and I ran into this guy, and I'll never forget the blog header that he had. It was this big kind of goofy header, and his hair was all over the place, and he had this shirt that was unbuttoned. He had this, after I saw the picture later on, I actually saw what the picture looked like. It was him with his knee up on something standing on the roof, and I went, who in the heck is this guy? Who in the heck? And I actually didn't even say heck. I said another 4-letter word. But what happened over the course of the next probably 3 to 4 months was I was exposed more and more to Dave, and I realized that all of the people who I was initially starstruck by, which some of you on this call can probably relate to, maybe you ran across somebody and they pulled you in, they engaged you by something that they said, and then over the course of time, you realize that they were basically just saying the same thing, but they weren't really, or saying a lot, but they weren't really saying that much, okay? What I realized with David was that the things that he was saying was filled with more substance than anybody else on the internet, and that's exactly why he was able to go on and produce some of the results that he had. Also, the other thing that stood out that I was able to relate to and I was able to identify with is his ability to articulate his message and his story in one of the most authentic ways that I had ever heard anybody articulate their story before. And I was absolutely blown away by this when I uncovered what he was really doing. And that immediately created an emotional connection with Dave and me before we had actually even met. A little bit about me before we get into the content portion of this call. And by the way, what we have planned for you guys over the course of the next probably, just like Dave said, 6 months, but I'm thinking more immediately because we have somewhat of a structure and things that we're going to cover for you is absolutely probably some of the most groundbreaking information that we've uncovered since we've been online. I mean, obviously, Dave and I have been going over a couple of things, and I'm taking notes when Dave's speaking, and I would assume maybe Dave's taking notes when I'm speaking. And the reason why we're constantly taking notes and why there's a very good possibility that you already have a pencil, and again, if you don't, you should grab one, is because that we're constant students of the game. But I wasn't always a constant student of life. When I was actually 14 years old, I actually was one of those rebellious teenagers who kind of said, you know what, screw this, I'm not going to conform to not only society's rules and regulations, but I'm not going to conform to the rules and regulations in my house, and I actually left home. And a couple of years later, actually at the age of 16, I had my daughter, who is now the apple of my eye. But over the course from the age of 16 to roughly about, I don't know, for the next roughly 9, 10 years, I battled and struggled on the streets with addiction and alcoholism and basically every other type of struggle, trial, tribulation, whatever you want to call it, that a human being can possibly struggle with. And a lot of
the things that I struggled with were self-induced. I'm not a victim of anything, of the society, of anybody in my life. I wasn't raped. I wasn't abused. I was just simply somebody who was going to go out and try to figure things out on my own. And it wasn't until roughly about 2008, actually February of 2008 to be exact, I'd hit a bottom that I'd never hit before. Not only on the outside, but I hit a bottom on the inside. And that was really a bottom that I had never experienced before. See, I was going and running, and as my mom used to say, but she just had all kinds of crazy little things that she used to say about me. But she just used to say I'd be ranting and raving all over the streets. But I had lost things, and I knew what it was like to be homeless. I knew what it was like to not have any money. As a matter of fact, the majority of my life, I really didn't have any money. I grew up in a blue-collar home, but as soon as I left home, the only money that I really made was by any little hustles that I could figure out or get going out there on the street. So I knew what it was like to be broke and empty on the outside. But again, in 2008, I had basically lost everything. I lost my daughter. I lost my family. I lost the trust of the people around me that loved me most. And I came to a point to where I crawled into a room and asked a man to help me save my life. And he did. And over the course of the last 3.5 years, roughly, I've stayed completely clean and sober. I've fought to get my family back. As a matter of fact, over the course of the last couple of months, I built a relationship and got full custody of my daughter. I went on to have personal breakthroughs in my life, and I'm not even talking about anything business yet, because it took me a long time to actually realize that, you know what, being broke kind of sucks, because I had this personal breakthrough, and I experienced what it was like to go through this almost personal morph. I morphed into this new person. I realized what it was like to be an empathetic human being who really was able to get in touch with his feelings and be okay with who he was, because for a long time, obviously, I struggled with low self-esteem and low self-worth and all the things that a lot of people struggle with but nobody really talks about. And I figured out how to be okay with me, how to be okay with Dave. And again, roughly about 1.5 years ago, I was looking in the mirror and I was looking at my surroundings. I was looking at the truck that I was driving, and it was an old 1990 Ford F-150 gray with the paint peeling off, and I never even washed this truck the entire time that I owned it. But I looked around at my surroundings, and I said, you know what, dang it, I think it would be kind of cool if I was able to make a little bit of money, because I was a construction worker. I was swinging a hammer on a construction site, living paycheck to paycheck, robbing Peter to pay Paul, had no money in my savings account, was really at a financial bottom. I literally experienced every bottom that somebody could experience, and I was down on a job. I'll never forget the day, and I was remodeling a bathroom at a lady named Ewing's house, and there was a gentleman named John who worked for Florida Power here in Florida, and I live in St. Petersburg, Florida, right outside of Tampa, and he drove by the job, and I had actually done some work previously at his house. This was like a little street that we did a whole bunch of work on, and just people, my dad and I, people just trusted us. We were those old trusty contractors that, you'd let in your house, and you'd go and you could go to the store, and you felt safe leaving us there. And this guy was hammering me. He kept coming by and showing me these like printouts of these checks that he was making, and it was $200 or $300, $400 a week. And it was exactly what I was looking for, but because I was so basically closed-minded, unwilling, I was formed and molded by society to basically be pessimistic and be that person that we now talk about as network marketers or marketers that are those pessimistic people who call things pyramid schemes and all. Well, I was that guy, but deep down inside, and here's a lesson that you can probably take, and you may already know about your prospects, is actually they're deep down dying for something. And finally an opening was made, and I said, you know what, this just very well may be an answer to my prayers. And so I went over and I made a decision to take the money that I made from that job, and I drove over and I signed up in this business without even actually going to a home or a hotel meeting or watching a business presentation. And it was this technical or cell phone MLM thing. And actually, a couple of months later, it actually crashed and shut down. Actually, it didn't shut down, but they had some major problems, and I just didn't feel good about it anymore. But before the point that had happened, I had got on the Internet, because I was one of those people who also tried to body slam my grandma into my business and wandered around and had a bunch of business cards made. I made a website on Vistaprint and thought I was going to be rich in 3 months, but that didn't happen. And I stumbled across some information on the Internet some of which we'll share tonight. Other was just absolute useless information. But I did uncover some people and some information that struck a chord, and I said, you know what, I think there just might be something here. And within 6 months of me uncovering that information, I was able to quit my job, start working full-time from home, making more money than I'd ever made my whole entire life. I was actually scared to sell that old 1990 Ford F-150 because I didn't actually know if I was going to need that thing anymore. But I ended up eventually selling it. And in the beginning of this year, I built a team of well over 1,000 people in less than 90 days, sponsored over 113 or 14 people in less than 45 days. I've gone on to have upwards of 5-figure weeks consistently. And just last week, for example, launched a private membership site that I did 163 sales, 163 people off of my list, off of actually a fraction of my list. Became a member of my private coaching club, and it was just basically a soft launch, private launch to my list without affiliates. And what's happened over the course of the last basically year is something that not only I would have never expected, but I can promise and guarantee that the people around me would have never expected either, because I'm just a regular guy. And one of the main ingredients that I've used to be able to have those type of results is inspiration. See, here's the thing. When I first got on the internet, I was watching everybody and doing exactly what they did. I would get in front of the camera. I would make sure that my hair was combed exactly how I thought that you would like it. I would say the words exactly how I thought that you wanted to hear them. And I would do exactly the things that I thought society wanted to hear, until I finally woke up and slapped myself through the influence and inspiration of people like Dave and a few other of my mentors, and finally realized that, you know what, this is just not getting me anywhere. And one day I was inspired to actually start telling my story and actually telling people exactly who I am and what I've done in the past. And the minute that I started to do that, guys, I was able to start making a connection with people, my prospects, my leads, if that's what you want to call them, on a level that's a little bit deeper than just that surface level, because the truth of the matter is everybody out there is doing that. Now, here's the catch and here's the kicker. Okay, it's not just me telling you that this works. Let me give you a couple of examples of how this influencing through inspiring people. When I say inspiring people, I don't particularly mean going out there and being some big stage speaker who's going to walk around and emotionally charge and pump your fist and act all crazy. We're literally talking about inspiring people through just telling people who you are, sharing your authentic story. Dave always talks about how his true story, and you know, a lot of times we hear some of these stories and they're just so engaging, they're so inspiring, and we listen to them and we want to join, we want to buy, we want to do things, but we don't wake up and realize that that's actually the main ingredient that makes us want to connect with this person. Okay, a couple of examples of this happening or manifesting right in front of our eyes is Dave Wood. Okay, he's a great example. He's a great person that I could use as an example that I could probably talk about for the next 1 to 2 hours. But let me give you a couple of other people just so you can kind of get a visualization of what it looks like and maybe what it feels like. Okay. First, let me give an example of somebody who a lot of people may not really think about, but she's created one of the biggest armies of women. I'm telling you, this culture that she has created is probably unlike any other culture that I've ever seen before, besides some of these religious cultures, and that's Oprah Winfrey. Okay, she's a great example of somebody. Now, there's women, and maybe even particularly some men on this call, who may be able to explain or relate or communicate Oprah and what she's done better than I can. But I can tell you that one thing I know about her is she's real and she's authentic. And ever since probably I was a baby in diapers, she's been on TV talking about the things and the issues that everybody else is afraid to talk about. She's been on TV talking about the things that women can relate to, that they feel uncomfortable talking about in some of these other social situations. And women, what they do, and you may have seen somebody in your house, maybe your mom, maybe your grandma, maybe you've done it yourself, run to the TV at 4 p.m. Eastern time. I know that my mom did it almost every single day, to sit down and watch Oprah and engage and identify and do something which I call the wordless language of identification, something called empathy. The ability to relate to somebody on a level that's deeper than just the skin. So Here's the cool thing, and here's the hit, and that's just one example, but there's several people that's done it. Tony Robbins has done it. A lot of the other culture builders have done the same thing, okay? And there's a lot of examples just right here inside of our industry. Danny Johnson is one. Jeffrey Combs has done it on some level. Danny Johnson is probably a better example. She has got a culture and a following unlike most people inside of this industry. And the reason why, and you can see it in watching some of her videos, is because she sits down and tells you what the heck she's going through while everybody else is scared to talk about that stuff. Guys, we're moving into a new we're just moving into a new society, not just an economy. Sometimes we talk about, well, we're moving into this new economy. Well, the fact of the matter is we're moving into a new society. We're moving into a place to where people want to sit down and watch reality TV, not Law and Order. We're moving into a situation to where people want to connect with people, and this, my friends, is the key, really, to getting big results without having to be a tech guru. Now, I know Dave's going to give some other language and communication concepts and contacts. So with that being said, let me go ahead and pass it back over to him.
Yeah, guys, and I think I want everybody here to just notice a couple things here about the last couple of minutes. And as you kind of remember back into the things that David was saying, you'll find that as he kind of went into his own story and, telling the story about how when he was 14 years old, he got into some things that a lot of people have done, but very few will admit. And as he's telling this story, you kind of feel, as you're listening to it, kind of like a surge of inspiration, maybe a tingling up your right arm, or maybe a warmth or a fuzziness you start feeling as he starts communicating truthfully. And the reality is, one of the things that I noticed when I first got onto the internet is that most people on the internet are not real when they're in front of the camera. They're not real when they get onto conference calls. They project this persona that doesn't exist, trying to be somebody that they're not. They try to be Dave Wood. They're trying to be Dave Sharp, but they've never been a drug addict. They're trying to be Ray Higdon, but they can't part their hair perfectly to the left. They're trying to be somebody that they're not in an effort to be perfectly duplicatable, in an effort to duplicate the success of personalities. But the reality is that in doing so, what they're doing is they're missing who they really are. And I'll tell you something, if you're listening to this on the phone, the market needs you. It doesn't need another Dave Wood. It doesn't need another David Sharp. It needs a you, because that's the one thing the market doesn't have right now. If you're not out there creating the massive success that you're deserving in your business, the market doesn't have you in it. It needs to have more of you in it and your real story. I've seen people in videos, folks, they have some of the most inspirational, some of the most powerful stories that you could possibly imagine. If you heard them, they would draw you into a place where you would cry and you would want to connect with this person so bad. You would do whatever it took, whether it's flying across to a seminar, whether it's joining a business, didn't matter what it was. But then they get in the video and they block off that emotion so no one can connect with them. And when you hear Dave speaking, when you hear me speaking, when you hear these personalities speaking, they're not conveying a message that's unauthentic. Remember this, and remember this well, that people like people that are real, and they don't like people that are not real. The days are over when you put on a suit and tie and dress to impress to get people in a business opportunity. It does not work anymore. I'll tell you what does work is reaching down inside yourself and reaching into that space inside of you to find something that you didn't know you had until now, and to pull it up and to share that message with the world. Let me share with you a story about somebody that came out to one of the events that I did out here in Costa Rica, just so everybody here on can relate to exactly the power that I'm talking about. We had this little small group, and Dave came out, a couple other people came out. We had about 15 people, kind of flew down and kind of had this little private meeting, rented out a 15,000 square foot house for it, out in Costa Rica, and really just kind of spent the weekend teaching leadership concepts. And one of the things we did, and Dave could kind of relate his experiences, we went on something called a zip line tour where we kind of just, paid for everybody and took them out and went zip lining through the jungle, and then we took them on these swings at the end, and just so people who were a little afraid of heights could kind of have little breakthroughs there. Well, at the end of the tour, there's this thing called a Tarzan swing where they had kind of two options. The one option was a swing, and the way this works is you got two trees, if you could imagine, kind of looking out over a valley, and you've got two jungle trees, each one's like 200 feet high, and they hook some cable around the top of the trees, and then there's this kind of tightrope that goes in between them, and then what they do is right in the center of that tightrope, if you could kind of imagine a little latchet there, and they have a rope that comes down. You hook it into a rappelling harness, and you literally jump off of a ledge into a valley in the jungle. Now, there's kind of two options. There's a kind of a 40-footer, right? And then over on the other side, there's this 200-foot Tarzan swing. Now, what happens when you jump off is your stomach kind of sinks, and you're absolutely terrified. Doesn't matter if you've done it in the past. Doesn't matter if you're not afraid of heights. Doesn't matter if you went bungee jumping in the past. You're flipping terrified beyond imagination. And people who have a fear of heights have a real hard time going off because you actually free fall about 30 or 40 feet before the rappelling harness catches and you start swinging through the jungle. Well, one of the ladies that we had down, I'm not going to mention her name because I haven't asked her permission, but she had a real hard time going off this swing. In fact, she couldn't go up. She got to the stairs where she was walking up to this ledge, and you literally had to wrap your leg around a tree, hook yourself into a rappelling harness, and it was kind of pulling you forward. You felt like you were just going to fly off and splat into a tree in the middle of the jungle. It's absolutely terrifying, and she was terrified beyond imagination. She couldn't walk up the steps. She couldn't do it. She had a dramatic fear of heights. But let me tell you what happened is we all got around her. We put our hands on her shoulders and we said, "You can do it." And she took just one more step. And then she took another step back down. And then we walked up and you said, "Hey, you know what? You can do it." And she took a step up and kind of stayed there, kind of terrified. Her body was physically shaking, all right? And then we said, "Hey, you can do it. You can do this. We're going to sit here until you make it up the steps." And she, one by one, minute by minute, she made her way up those steps. Probably, honest to God, probably took her a half an hour. She said something that was so funny. Something so funny happened. I'll tell you guys here in a little bit. But she was walking up these steps. She finally got up. And literally, if you looked at her face, it looked like she was about to have a heart attack. That's how terrified she was. But you know what happened? We started hollering in the background. We started cheering. She let out a scream, and she stepped over the ledge. And I'll tell you what happened here a little bit later on in this presentation, but folks, sometimes that fear that you feel inside, that fear that you feel where you don't want people to know who you really are, you don't want to share with somebody your inner heart because you're afraid of it being stepped on again, you got to kind of step out into the jungle and have a little bit of faith that something on the other side is going to catch you, all right? Now, when this person kind of stepped out over this ledge, something happened to her that switched her entire life around and changed something inside that she'd been holding back for years and years and years and years. And it created what I'd call a perceptual transformation in her business that completely altered the way she does everything in her business. And why did it happen? It happened because she stepped out into her fear. I'll tell you, folks, there's one thing that's going to prevent you from being authentic in your business, and that one thing, even if you're not admitting it, is fear. You don't want people to look down at you. You don't want people to say, "Oh, look at that wussy," when you're telling your story. They don't want them to laugh at you because when you're a little kid, people used to poke fun and they used to laugh at you, and you don't want to be laughed at again. I am telling you something, and if you will just trust me on this, everything you do will be more powerful. Your videos will be more powerful. Your audios will be more powerful. Your copywriting will be more powerful. The articles you write will convey a more powerful message. And what I'm telling you right now is that if you will just be yourself, be who you are, and step out into that fear, that is the missing link that you need to understand in your business. Now, when you're telling stories, here's a couple things that I want everybody here to understand, and a couple things that I have as pointers for you to help you get more results. And then we're going to actually turn it over to Dave, and he's going to actually go over some strategies for closing more people, bringing more people into businesses to products through the power of stories. A couple of things that are going to help you out. Number one, be authentic. You must be willing to share yourself, and if you're not, people will not connect with you. It's more powerful. Let me give you two examples of stories. One person's faking it. They're saying, "I'm going to fake it till I make it." All right, let me show you guys how I'm getting 150 leads a day. And you're looking at a video, and you can tell that this guy lives in a basement, and you say, that guy is not getting 150 leads a day. But he says, "Let me share with you the story of how I'm getting 150 leads a day, sponsoring people on autopilot." And you can tell that he's almost reading it off a teleprompter because it's bullshit and he's never gotten 2 leads. Folks, it's more powerful if you be authentic and be yourself. If you were going to be the same person and you stepped out and you said, hey, look, I want to tell you the truth about where I am in my life. A lot of people online are full of it, but I'll tell you one thing. One thing that you do need in your life is you need the power of a team who's really going to stand behind you. Look, I'm not the richest person on the internet. In fact, I'm embarrassed to say it. I used to make $1 million in real estate, and right now I've lost everything. The market tanked. I lost it all, and I'm living in my mom's basement. But I'm going to tell you something right now. I've made a lot of money in the past. I can do it again. I'm going to take an enormous amount of people with me, and I'm learning some skills right now that you need to learn. Click on the link right now below this video. I'm going to take you to a page where I'm going to walk you through exactly my transformation plan. I'm going to tell you something, folks. That second, authentic, true story will win out over the bullshit every single day of the week, all right? So number 1, be authentic. Number 2 thing that I want you to understand, you can use stories as metaphors. You can illustrate any point you can imagine. And when you're in a conference call, when you're on a webinar, when you're on a training, when you leave that training, what do you remember? Do you remember the facts? Do you remember the statistics? No, you don't. You remember the metaphors. You remember the allegories, and you remember the stories. You remember the passion that was shared on the call. Dave's story about how when he was 14, he got into some things, and he was addicted to drugs, and then went through his life and had pain, and he lost his daughter, and he's at a breaking point where he actually had to crawl into somebody's house and say, can you save my life? That's what you remember from a conference call. All the other stuff that gets presented there, let me tell you what happened is your mind kind of reorganizes and deletes some of it. And therefore, knowing that, it's more powerful if you, like Jesus, like Buddha, like the great teachers in history, realize that most people don't remember facts, and that if you're doing a presentation, if you're doing a conference call, if you're writing an article, if you're making a video, that 80 to 85% of whatever it is that you're creating should absolutely be stories, metaphors, and what I'd like to say, ambiguous language. That's just a fact of business. If you look through my highest converting presentations, if you look through Mike Dillard's sales letter for the magnetic sponsoring product, which is one of the best sales letters in the entire network marketing industry, if you look at Dagan Smith's maximum leverage course, if you look at a course I just produced that has a 4% conversion on a $495
Okay, guys, I don't know if you can hear Dave, but he just cut out for me, so hold on a second. Let me just send him a quick message and see. There's sometimes that his phone just cuts out. You know, the majority of you who know him know that he lives in the jungle of Costa Rica, and it's absolutely the jungle. So hopefully I'm the only one who cannot hear him. I believe that just to kind of finish a sentence, basically because I was visualizing exactly what he was talking about as he was talking, and all those specific training, sales letters, courses, and all that different kind of stuff, is they sell through telling stories. So I wanted to kind of cover a couple of things because there was some incredibly, and you know what, I have shiny ball syndrome. I don't know if any of you can relate to that. It's called ADD to the max, and I was just kind of fading off there a couple of times thinking about some funny things that happened today. But I just wanted to tell you guys, just to kind of tell you the life of sometimes an internet marketer, and sometimes even somebody who's doing really well and who's very successful. But today we needed some really quick groceries. And there recently, I don't know about you, but if there's not a Walmart around where you live, then there will be soon. It's kind of like the field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. It's absolutely unbelievable. But there was a Walmart that was built very close to my house, and we ran in there the other day, even though, quite frankly, I like to try to support local businesses as much as I can. However, it's just so dadgum convenient. Sometimes I just got to go. And I had to go to the bathroom really bad. And if my girlfriend hears me talking about this, whose name's Erin, who I absolutely love more than anything in the whole entire world, and she's actually laughing about this. I don't know if you heard her just there in the background, but was kind of walking around through her, and she heard me about to tell this story, but I had to go to the bathroom really bad, and I was kind of walking, and I wasn't really thinking, and I came up to the bathroom, and I accidentally went right when I should have went left. Now, again, guys, we've got probably, a couple of hundred people on the conference call tonight, and I'm basically about to divulge something that's pretty embarrassing. But the truth of the matter is it's what happens to me on a daily basis. I'm a human being, and I experience real things. Well, anyways, I was using the bathroom, and all of a sudden I hear a woman's voice, and she says something, whatever she says, and I went, oh, shoot, I'm in the women's bathroom. And instead of just being quiet and just finishing up and getting out, I spoke up because I had a guilty conscience, and I said, oh, shoot, I think I'm in the women's bathroom, and I'll hurry up and get out here in just a second. And I did that. And as I was walking out, 2 Walmart employees come in, and they basically look at me like I'm some sort of a pedophile. And the obvious look on my face, too, was, oh, shoot, I almost felt like I did something wrong. But the truth of the matter is I tell you that story more so to tell you that Dave and I may tell you some really, really interesting facts, some very valuable things that you can use that will literally double, maybe even triple your business over the course of the next couple of weeks, months, or years. But by me telling you a story that's kind of funny, quirky, and that most people wouldn't tell, and that's a true story. I've got my daughter that was looking at me while I was telling that, and also my girlfriend was laughing, which I'm sure you heard in the background. By me telling you a story that most people would never tell, you may just remember that story, and if I see it at a live event or somewhere in the future, you may even ask me or joke with me and say, hey, Dave, make sure you don't go in the women's bathroom. That's the power of stories, and that's just to kind of piggyback what Dave was talking about as far as the power of stories and the power of selling through stories. Now, this is something that I always recommend people as they're coming into the industry, and this is something that I probably did way too late, okay? Dave, are you back on, buddy? Dave, are you back on?
Yeah, dude. I've been back on for like 10 minutes.
oh, man. I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry. I just tried to cover because I thought that we lost you, man. Do you want to finish up your thought? Because I was just literally about to move in. I was just basically telling a story. So if you want to finish up your thought, buddy.
Yeah, dude. Well, absolutely. And here's how I'll finish it, guys. There's an art to different kinds of storytelling that you can use in your life. And one thing that I just encourage everybody here to do is to keep some kind of a journal. Now, if you're not a writer, it doesn't have to be some sort of elaborate journal, but some of the most successful people that I've ever met in my life have just been an avid fan of journaling. And one of the things that you're going to find as you go through your life, if you just pay attention to what's going on, is that life manifests in a metaphor. You know, it's just like if some people on here are Christian, and this definitely isn't religious, but if you read through in the teachings of Jesus of Nazareth or Buddha or any of the teachings in the Quran, what you're going to find is that the greatest, most inspirational leaders in life in the world, politics, when they're asked for the question, they tend to respond in answering the question with another question and with stories. And what you're going to find in your business is that you can use things that have happened to you that you don't think are going to change people's lives. For example, had I not been paying attention in that retreat in Costa Rica, I would not have been able to use that story of that lady who walked up kind of there on the ledge and had a breakthrough in her life to help you have a breakthrough. You got to pay attention to the things that are happening in your life. Just jot it down. And here's what I want you to ask yourself at the end of every day. When you look down, just write down. You don't even need to make down this full-on, long, descriptive thing. Just write down maybe a little note, a word or two that helps you recall things that happened to you today. Just ask yourself the question, can anything that happened to me today, this week, this month, help me if used as a story? Can it be used as a metaphor? Can it be used as an allegory to illustrate a point that I would otherwise have to illustrate with factual information? Did anything that happened to me today, could that convey a message to a certain kind of person that could not be reached with information? And what you'll find out is if you start asking that kind of question to yourself, there's two effects. Number one, you're going to realize you have an unbelievable amount of resources to help you teach people in a way that they can understand. Number two, what's going to happen, and this is one of the strangest effects that will ever happen to you, is your life will turn into a metaphor where everything is full of meaning, because there are two parts to your mind. There's a very logical part that breaks things down in structures, which is what society always wants you to tap into, and that's a great part of your mind. But there's a part that understands the world through metaphors. And if you ask yourself, what's the meaning of this thing that just happened to me? What's the meaning of this speeding ticket? There might not actually be a meaning, and it doesn't even matter if there is. Your mind will start to feed off meanings to you in everything in your life. Your dreams will become more vivid, and you will be able to communicate with other human beings more powerfully. That's what I'm going to encourage you to do as an assignment this week. Journal this week, just for the next 7 days, and ask yourself the question, could anything that happened to me at my job today, when I was prospecting today, in my car today, did anything happen to me that can be used as a story, as an allegory, as a metaphor to help me communicate and sell more powerfully? And you will be amazed what happened to you. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it back over to Dave to share one of the most powerful concepts that you're ever going to have in your business. And this is literally how to bring in more business, how to close more sales using stories, metaphors, allegories. So Dave, back over to you, buddy.
Hey, cool, man. Yeah, and as you were talking, Dave, really glad that we didn't lose you there, man, so you could finish that thought, because that's not only is that a way in the business to be able to accomplish more and to get a different perspective, but also personally. And I can tell you that for a long time inside of my life, I was really, and inside of my personal life, and I think that one pattern that you'll see, especially when I'm talking about things, is how my personal life affects my business life. I think that you guys will probably be able to relate to the same thing, and the personal breakthroughs equal business breakthroughs, bottom line. But for a long time, I was really self-absorbed. I was always in either victim stance or fear mode, or why is this happening to me, or how could this happen to me, or these are just a few examples of some of the mentalities that I had. And when I roughly 3.5, almost 4 years ago, February 8th, 2008 was when I made the decision to change my personal life. From that day forward, I started to get into doing things for other people, serving my society, serving my fellow man. And I started to do this long before I got inside of marketing or network marketing. And the interesting thing is, to this day, on Sunday night at 7:30 Eastern Time, I'm always down, and have been for the past 3.5 years, a little over 3.5 years, in a drug treatment center down in one of the rougher parts of St. Petersburg, South St. Pete, down on 18th Avenue South and 9th Street. At a drug treatment center, sharing some inspiration, sharing some hope, basically engaging, talking to, and building relationships with men who went through some of the same struggles that I went through. And the reason why I do that is because, A, it allows me to get out of myself. It allows me to be less self-absorbed. And when I'm less self-absorbed, I'm able to notice more going on around me. And I'm able to have less of a mentality of victim stance, or that negativity. Basically, I can sum it up in that general term of negativity, and basically how everybody else is inside of our society. But one thing that I always recommend to people who have been on teams, who I've coached with, worked with, and even talked to on a daily basis, is do two things. Form your personal story in a 45 to 60 second mode, and also maybe a longer version. When I say long, I don't mean long as in 10 or 15, 20, 30 minutes. I mean long as in like 3 to 5 minutes. If you'll notice, and those of you who have been on Dave Wood's list for a long time, and those of you who have been on my list and attended my trainings, watched my videos, listened to my audios, you'll notice that I do one thing consistently, and that's tell my story. And the reason why I tell my story is because it's my most powerful asset. It's my most powerful tool. And the cool thing about it being my most powerful tool is that it also allows me the ability to stay authentic and be myself, which is exactly what gets me the results that I get. But a lot of times, what I like to do when I'm engaging with somebody, talking to somebody on the phone, is I actually try to know as least as I possibly can about what I'm selling. Now, let me explain. A lot of you are probably thinking, who are sales professionals, maybe been in the sales or marketing industry for 15, 20, 25 years. let me explain how that applies to network marketing, because the majority of you who are listening to this call are in network marketing, and even if you're not, that's totally cool, because it applies to the same thing, and the same principles will become the most important in almost every situation that you're selling something, which is how can you engage your customer, how can you get them to know, like, and trust you on a deeper level than just the skin surface. See, for the majority of the people who I've worked with, myself included, when I got involved in network marketing, and pretty much when I got involved in anything that I've got involved with since I have been in business or about business, I've thought that before I needed to talk to before I went and talked to any of my friends or family or did anything, I needed to learn every single element of the ingredients of the products and the owners of the company's maiden names and where they went to school and how many letters are in the company, if it's an incorporation or an LLC, and how many coded bonuses I get in this company. And you know what? The truth of the matter is nobody really cares about that stuff anyways. Honestly, they don't. There's so much noise in the marketplace. Let's just face it, there is opportunity for people to make money out there if you're a go-getter. One specific network marketing company is not the only place to do it. One specific affiliate opportunity is not the only place to do it. However, there are some that are better than others. However, one thing remains the same, and it's the common thread of this call. And we've started off this series by talking about this specific element because we believe through personal experience and observing other people who have been extremely successful that being able to connect to somebody on an emotional level is the best way to connect with people, which connecting with people and getting them to not just know and like you, but truly trust you and feel good about doing business with you, okay? Feel good about doing business with you. Now, let me give you an example of just really quick in some of the marketing mentality that we have when we're doing stuff. When I first got started, a lot of times I thought that I needed to please everybody. I thought that I needed to make a video and say the right words and wear the right clothes and do the right things that were going to appease the masses. And what I learned was that everybody is not going to feel good about doing business with me. I may be on a conference call and say a cuss word and somebody might hang up, and you know what the truth of the matter was? It's just not meant to be, okay? I learned a big lesson through recovery, through my personal experiences, and now through business, being stressed out and putting so much weight on results, is that life is supposed to happen how life's supposed to happen. And I truly believe that people come into our lives for a reason. And that if I'm talking to somebody and I have the ability to connect with them, not by telling them and wowing them and baffling them with BS about all that I know about my opportunity, but if they ask me a question by me saying, which this has been truly one of the most effective things that I have done to close so many people into sales, businesses, low tier, high tier, is simply tell somebody, you know what, Jim, I truthfully just don't have the answer to that question. If it's that important to you, I can get it for you. And if I get that question back to you tonight, will that be something that'll get you ready to get started? Simply telling somebody that I don't know the answer to somebody to a question is sometimes one of the most powerful things that I can do to somebody. And here's why: is because everybody out there is chasing their tails. Everybody out there is trying to be something that they're not, just like Dave was explaining earlier. Somebody sitting in their basement has never got any results, but they're telling you that they're a millionaire or generating 10,000 leads per month. And the truth of the matter is a lot of us have what's called a built-in BS detector, and we just kind of know when somebody's gassing us. So here's what I tell people to do, and here's what I've done that's allowed me to have really, really, really effective results that have turned into lots of sales, lots of recruits, lots of business and profit, is what I'll truthfully do is I'll start out selling my story. Just like Dave explained earlier, I'll literally just tell somebody exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing, okay? It's not really about the how, it's about the why I'm doing. Now, I don't really get into the whole financial freedom, time freedom, because you know what? That type of language is getting played out. People don't really want to hear about opportunities anymore. They don't want to hear about financial freedom because you know what? The majority of our population is numb to that type of language. What they want to hear is that, you know what, you can relate to their struggles. You know somebody or am personally in foreclosure or personally lost a job, or like myself, my stepfather worked for Sears for over 30 years, and when he was almost about to retire, the fat cats up in the office in Chicago, which this is nothing against Sears, it just happened. They said, you know what, we just don't need these people anymore. And after 30 years of hardcore service, the most responsible man that I personally know in my life, which is my stepfather, lost his job, and he's now basically a maintenance man at a church down in Dunedin, Florida, working for $10 to $12 an hour. I mean, literally, when I was in construction, if I needed help, I would call him and ask him for help. I would tell that type of story to somebody before I would try to baffle them with BS or wow them with all the kind of bells and whistles of my business, okay? And then if somebody asks me a question that I don't know, well, I just tell them, hey, you know what? I don't know the answer to that question, but I can get it for you. And when I do, is that going to put you in a position to get started? Okay? There's actually 3 different ways that I close people, and these are kind of redirect language styles that you can use after you make a connection with somebody on deeper than just a skin surface. Remember this, if you don't have the ability to make a connection with somebody at a level that's deeper than the skin surface, you are going to struggle. But once I'm able to achieve that, basically I always use one of 3 language styles, which the first one is assuming the sale. And those of you who are on Dave's list know that this is something that he teaches often, and the reason why he teaches it is that it works, is basically assuming that somebody's ready to get started. So after I connect with them and talk about basically family, recreation, something, my personal experience, as I'll say, hey, what'd you like best about what you saw? And then I'll ask them if they're ready to get started. The other thing that I'll do is I'll just simply get frank with somebody, okay? A lot of people don't get frank with people. I had one guy call me not too long ago, and he babbled probably for 5 minutes until finally he just told me that he was calling me to tell me about his business opportunity. I said, hey, dude, I mean, no disrespect, but I'm kind of busy these days, and I'd appreciate it if you had just kind of got to the point 5 minutes ago. I get frank with people. If I can tell that they're kind of beating around the bush and not really wanting to tell me what is keeping them from getting started, I'll just say, hey, you know, what's the real, what is it exactly that's keeping you from getting started today, okay? And a lot of times what happens is you become that Aunt Joanne. Everybody's got one of those Aunt Joannes or Uncle Franks who you'll say either to their face or behind their back, man, that Aunt Joanne, shit, man, she tells it how it is. You'll become that person that's able to connect with them because you just authentically say, hey, man, let's keep it real with each other. What's it that's actually keeping you from getting started, okay? And the third thing that I do is just redirect people to the old I don't know, which I'm telling you, the biggest element in sales letters, the biggest element, or for lack of better words, element that gets people to take action is not fear of loss. It's not all of these other things that people think it is. If it was fear of loss, then everybody would be in your network marketing opportunity. Why? Because they'd all be scrambling, running over for their credit card because they thought that they weren't going to get spillover or something like that. Do you want to know what the real element that gets people to move and take action, create cultures and followings, and create a glue within your organization, your business, or your life is belief. It's belief. So what I've actually started to do inside of my marketing, inside of my sales letters, inside of my copywriting and my communication is actually tone down the hype and create more belief. And I did that by telling you guys earlier how I went in the women's bathroom. I tell you that by telling you earlier, actually, we got a couple of bikes here at my house, and my girlfriend, God bless her, love her, she's absolutely helped save my life. But she didn't know how to ride a bike. And today we went outside and I helped teach her how to ride a bike. And it was incredible watching her, ride the bike out. Now, a lot of times people wouldn't tell you something like that, but I know that the majority of the people on this call just want to hear something real. They just want to know that people who are getting results in network marketing, affiliate marketing, whatever the case may be, are just real people, because that's what truly inspires you to want to keep going. So with that being said, Dave, why don't you tell everybody a little bit more about what we're going to be doing over the course of the next couple of months?
Well, absolutely, Dave. And by the way, that stuff, guys, that he just shared, and I just want to edify that here, just so everybody understands, and just one thing, if you could pick up one thing that he said, and that's assuming that people are ready to join and calling them on when they're flip-floppy, will change your recruiting, will change your selling, it will change your marketing instantaneously with nothing else changing. Just let me share one more story on that, and then I'm going to get into this. There's a guy I was working with who'd been online for 2.5 years and never recruited a single person. Not one time had he recruited people. He'd gotten leads. He'd sold some affiliate products, but he'd never, ever been able to recruit. I got with him on the phone, and he said, well, what do you do, Dave? And I said, well, it's real simple, bro. When somebody calls me and they're asking about a business, they ask me a question, and I say, if I answer this question, is that all you need to know before you get started? And usually they say, well, yeah, and I really want to know this. So I say, so if I answer this question and that other one, then there's nothing else you need to know before you get started. And they say, well, no. And then I answer the two questions, and then after I'm done, I say, so let's get you enrolled. Are you in front of a computer right now? And the person will usually say yes, and then I'll lead them to my website. I'll say, click on the join button, walk them through on the phone. And you notice I never even asked them to join. I just essentially told them they were going to do it. And this guy did not believe me. He said, it's too good to be true. That couldn't happen. And I said, try it, dude. His first person he talked to thousands of people. The very first person he got on the phone signed up with him that night. So what Dave just said is powerful. Now let's get back into a couple of things here, and we're going to close out the call because it's been a little bit about an hour. We'll probably be on about 5-10 more minutes. Guys, we got kind of a vision here of really empowering you guys to succeed. And when I say that, it's not a light thing. It's not a hypey thing. The reality is that everything that you guys see, the majority of what you guys see on the internet, the marketing that you see, the funnels that you go through, the processes that you go through, are really designed to kind of keep you feeding the gurus, if that makes sense. They're designed to keep you propping up a guru on the top of a mountain and kind of keeping you in a phase in your business that I call a grinder. Now, there's a couple different categories of people that are online, and I'm going to kind of go over these real quick, but you guys will really understand, and you'll understand what category you're in a minute here. And our goal is to help you get out of that category, whatever it is, into the next one. And the number one category of person, and we're talking about serious people. I'm not talking about people that are, in a business to just screw around, or they're here to just whiffle waffle. I'm talking about people that really want to change their lives. First category, folks, is a grinder. What's a grinder? A grinder is a person that's essentially stuck at a low income level, and no matter how hard they work and no matter what they do, their business does not expand beyond them. Now, this could also be somebody that's trapped at $10,000 or $20,000 a month, but they're stuck and they're trapped and they're tied to their business all day and they can't break free, and the second they do, their income starts to go south. All right. A grinder is somebody who essentially keeps feeding into a big system, keeps feeding into a big process. And I'm not dissing any systems here. It could be anything, any affiliate program. You're feeding. You're a bottom feeder, and you're kind of pushing. You're pushing yourself down to continue to be a grinder. And those of you who are grinders, you know what I'm talking about. Being a grinder sucks. I've been a grinder in my business before, and it's not fun. The next category of people, or what I like to call kind of like they're like the middle class of the internet. Does that make sense? They're like the $5,000 to $10,000 a month earners, and they really want to make six figures a year. But it seems like the six-figure, the seven-figure a year concepts that they're hearing aren't really the real concepts. And so they go out there and they buy the courses, they buy the ebooks, they keep popping on the phone, they keep doing meetings, they keep doing conference calls, they keep doing webinars. But no matter how hard they work, no matter what they do, they're stuck in a middle class. They're like the middle class of the internet. And then here's the next category, all right? The next category is the rock stars. all right? And what's a rock star on the internet? A rock star, they don't have to be known. I'm not talking about a name. I'm not talking about being a guru. Folks, let's just be real for a second. Do you honestly care if you're ever a guru? I don't care if I'm ever a guru, right? I mean, I've kind of got a little sub-guru status out there right now, but the reality is, folks, nobody cares if they're a guru. Here's what they care. Can I scale my business out? Here's what a rock star is. A rock star is somebody on the internet, folks, that can literally step into a market and create income out of thin air like they're a magical genie in a lamp. And when you understand marketing, when you understand the principles, when you understand how to generate traffic, how to create leads, how to convert leads into money, when you understand the concepts that have driven my success, that have driven Dave's success, that allowed me to make as much as $33,000 in a night, and I'll tell you the only reason I've made more money in a shorter time than Dave is because I've been doing it longer. He's on that same track that I was on. Essentially, he got in maybe 6 months after I got in. So, folks, when you understand these concepts, when you understand the principles that drive the internet creation out of thin air of business, you can create income on demand, and that's what a rock star is. It has nothing to do with personal branding. It has nothing to do with being a part of a certain company, a certain organization, a certain system, a certain affiliate product. It has nothing to do with it. It has to do with your abilities. And so David and I, we're decided to lock arms to empower you to reach into a new level of success into your business, to reach into an entirely new vision in your business. We're putting together a process for you that you're going to be able to go through. And as of right now, there's absolutely nothing for you to buy. You've just got to attend these conference calls every week to start feeding into the process. We're going to show you the structure behind David's copywriting that allows him to get better conversions than people in this industry that do $10 million a year in sales. All right, we're going to show you the sales psychology that allow me to create little communities that are more loyal than anybody else has a community on the internet, folks. We are going to walk you through the entire process over the next few weeks. But here's the important thing, folks. We've got a vision where we can empower you to finally earn the income that you deserve. We've got a vision not just to be fickle about it. You know what I mean? Oh, here, come and sell my products and I'll help you make $2,000 a month. Folks, $2,000 a month, honestly, is toilet paper in this industry. We're going to show you how to make the real money. We're going to show you how to create the big leveraged income that you want, how to be a rock star in this industry, how to produce outstanding results, and we are going to walk you through a process and build a culture and a community, folks, that I promise you, if you're on this call, this community will turn into tens of thousands of people. It will turn into hundreds of thousands of people, folks, because we've got a vision and a dream to do it. But the only question is, and this is a question that I have for you, is are you serious about your business or not? Are you ready to break through, or are you happy being a grinder? Are you happy spinning on the treadmill? You got out of the treadmill in a corporation, and now you're on a treadmill in the online network marketing space. Are you sick of being on the treadmill, or are you satisfied with it? If you're satisfied, this direction and this vision may be a little bit different. It may not be for you. But if you're really looking forward, if you're really wanting to have a breakthrough in your business, to be able to recruit on demand, to be able to sell more products than anybody's ever sold in your life, but more importantly, to understand the science and the skill of how to scale out a business from $0 to $1 million a year, then you need to be on these calls every single week. That's out, period. That's it, period, no matter what, because my dream is to help you live your dream. I want to see you live on the beaches of the world. And so what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to turn it back over to Dave to just kind of close this off and share kind of a little bit more of his heart and his passion, folks. Be on this call next Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to show you more of the science of how to get into the nitty-gritty of marketing and how to help you reach a whole new level of transformation in your life. I'm going to turn it over to my good friend and business partner, Mr. Dave Sharp. So, Dave, take it away, bud.
Thanks, man. And I couldn't actually say or communicate the vision that we have any more articulated any better than what you just said. However, what I will say, and I will recap what we've covered tonight on this particular call, because I will tell you that the content, the information, the strategies, the technique, the simple technique, if you can remember anything about what either of us said tonight, remember that at the very beginning of the call, Dave said the best gift that you can give your business, your family, the people in your life, in this world, is just simply be yourself. That means that to be successful inside of this industry, it's a couple of elements. And one of the elements is to lock into the vision. One of the elements is to be a part of the culture. One of the elements is to make sure that you're on this conference call every single Monday at 9 o'clock. But one of the elements that should take the majority of the pressure off of you is the simple fact that your assignment this week is to be less self-absorbed, inspire more people, get out of yourself, live with less fear, and just be yourself. See, that is the real secrets, quote-unquote secrets, that make money inside of this industry. So the refreshing thing for me, and I believe that everything happens for a reason inside of this call, inside of this partnership, inside of what we're doing over the course of the next couple of months, and who knows, maybe even in years to come, is that it feels right. I don't have to sit on these conference calls. I don't have to attend webinars. I don't have to meet with each one of you and be anything except who I am, because the truth of the matter is I can't do that. And if I do that, then eventually my mask is going to fall off anyways. And I thank God that I was able to uncover that specific quote-unquote secret, because you know what? It's literally set me free from the self-made prison that I lived in for so long. The ability to truly just be David. So again, recap, what we're going to do over the course of the next week until next Monday at 9 o'clock is do a little bit of journaling, is get a little more aware of what's going on around you, and take some of these silly little quirky things that most people sit around and instead of talking about, complain about the economy or the stock market and crap that truthfully I don't even understand and don't care about. Instead of paying attention and focusing in on the situations that you can actually turn into inspirational stories to close more sales, influence people, whether it be individuals or people on a mass scale. So again, I look forward to seeing each and every one of you next Monday at 9 o'clock. With that being said, what we're actually going to do is open up the lines here, because we've had a packed line here for an hour and 15 minutes. We're going to let you get back to your families. Give whoever you love a hug tonight. Give them a kiss. Tell them that you love them no matter what's happened over this weekend, no matter what's happened over the course of the last year or 6 months or 5 years or 10 years. Pick up the phone and tell somebody that you appreciate them tonight. Look somebody in the eyes and hug it out. Tell somebody that you care about them and you appreciate what they do in your life, because the truth of the matter, guys, is the only real thing that we got in this world, and I'm going to be dead honest with you, is each other. When I realized that and stopped trying to fight the world around me, the world opened up for me and embraced me, and that's when I truly started to have not only breakthroughs in my business, guys, but breakthroughs in my personal life. And I stopped always having breakdowns. So again, Labor Day, for those of you who are celebrating, I don't know, Labor Day, I mean, call it what you want to call it, but it is a holiday. And for those of you who do have jobs, make the best out of those jobs and go and do those jobs to the very best of your ability, because over the course of the next few months, our vision, our goal is to teach you the necessary skills and drills that you need to be able to have the type of choices to be able to do whatever you want in this world. Life is short, guys. Love the people around you. Have as much fun as you possibly can, and always remember to be yourself. I'm going to open up the lines. Everybody say good night. We love you. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next Monday at 9 o'clock.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, David.
Thank you, David.
Thank you very much.
Good job.
Hey, good night.
So much.
Good night. Thank you. Good night.
Good night, all.
Thank you, Mr. Sharp. Thank you, Mr. Wood.
Angie, you about ready for bed?
Night, everybody.
Good night, Dave.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you. Good night,